is Reb Beach from Whitesnake, and you're listening to BackstageAxxess.com.
Hey, this is Chris with BackstageAxxess.com, and we are happy to have with us here today Whitesnake and winger guitarist Reb Beach. Well, hello and welcome to BackstageAxxess.com. How are you doing today?
Doing great.
Cool. Now, you'll be kicking off the Whitesnake tour, I believe, tomorrow in Oklahoma?
Yeah.
And you'll be coming through our neck of the woods later in the month in Lewiston, New York, at a venue called Art Park. Are you looking forward to this tour hitting the States this summer?
Oh, yeah, big time. It's the first time I've ever done a greatest hits tour. I've been in Whitesnake for 13 years, and, you know, we always play new stuff or, you know, something that's really old, and, you know, a lot of times there's songs that people don't know, and this time it's just every hit that David ever had. So that should be exciting. I've never done that with any band I've been in.
Okay, great. Now, you did mention it's the greatest hits tour, so you're going to play all the classic Whitesnake songs everyone wants to hear. Will you also be including any songs from last year's Purple album and his time with Deep Purple? Is it all just Whitesnake songs this time around?
No, you needed to come see us last year if that's what you want to see.
Okay, no problem.
Greatest, last year was the Purple tour, this year's the greatest hits tour.
Now, speaking of the greatest hits, what about new music? I know David is kind of, at first he said no new Whitesnake, then he said probably. Are you guys working on something right now, or how is that going?
Yeah, I've been basically living with him for the past couple of months doing the live album, and you know, Joel's got some ideas he sent over to David. I've sent David about, I don't know, 15 or 20 ideas. And then, you know, when we hang out, he grabs a guitar and we start noodling stuff. So we've got all kinds of stuff that we've written that are just seeds to songs, and there's some really cool stuff there. And it's up to David if he wants to pursue that or not. You know, he's got so many ideas for what he wants to do in the future. He's just always thinking about new directions and new sounds, and, you know, so he's always got music in his head. So I'm sure something will come out. And hopefully it will be a new Whitesnake record, because I would love that. I've never written with David that produced anything that was on a record.
Okay. Now, you did work with him on the Purple album as far as maybe reworking some of those old Deep Purple songs a little bit. How was that experience for you?
I did that, yeah.
Okay.
That's true, I did do that. Forgot about that. Yeah, I wrote some stuff on there, and you know, but you don't get any publishing on it because it's a Deep Purple song. I just wrote, you know, I changed some sections just to make it different, and that was great working with David. I mean, you know, David and I are completely the odd couple. You know, he's a British aristocrat, and I'm a bum, a beer drinking slob. And so if you put us in the house together, you know, it's really, really funny. You know, I wake up in the morning with a hangover and, you know, come in for my Diet Coke, and he's there with his bathrobe, you know, and just looking pristine, you know, like with the sun shining in his head. Rebel, how are you this fine morning? You know, he's got this giant voice. He's a legend, you know.
Right.
So it's an interesting couple, but we work well together, and I really love David. He's been a great friend to me, and more like a father figure, actually.
Awesome. Now, you had mentioned, you know, you've been with Whitesnake a long time, I think longer than anyone except, of course, for David. And Joel's been in since, I think, 2014. What's your experience been like working with Joel, and how has he brought, you know, what has he brought into the band as far as the band chemistry and how everything works?
He's a perfectionist. He's one of those guys that studies music. His parents were classic violinists.
Okay.
So they were practicing every day, all day in his house. That's all he heard was scales. Da 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 da. So like all day long.
Right.
So he's unbelievable at learning parts. He just has a regimen that I'm incapable of achieving. And so he shows up and he knows this stuff inside and out. And he's just a super tight guitar player. Like, he does everything perfectly. Like, perfect performances on everything. So, you know, I've spent a long time in studios making records, and I'm pretty good at playing right, you know, behind the beat, right where I want to play. And so our guitars sound super tight together. It's never really sounded this tight. You know, I've never, you know, like me and Doug didn't really concentrate that much on, you know, making it absolutely perfect like the record, you know, and that's what Joel likes to do. So he's kind of got me into it too. We get in these little arguments about, doesn't that happen the second time on Crying in the Rain, but not on the first time? And so, you know, we kind of work a little harder at making it perfect, especially because this is the greatest hits tour, and it's songs that everyone knows, and want it to sound as much like that song they heard on the radio as possible.
Right.
So yeah, it's made the band a lot tighter, for sure.
Okay. Now, I know on this tour I saw that Whitford St. Holmes is going to be touring as well with you, and I know that you've mentioned in the past that Brad Whitford and early Aerosmith was a big influence on you, so how does it feel for him to be on board for the tour with you guys?
It's really awesome. I've actually, you know, met him more than anyone else in Aerosmith. He's kind of the guy in Aerosmith that hangs out, you know, like you'll see him in catering, you know.
Right.
He's just one of those guys that hangs out with the guys, and I've seen him a lot and talked to him a lot. So I'm really happy to get the chance to even talk to him even more on a tour. You know, I'm sure that we'll have lots of conversations because the guy's got to eat. And, you know, I'm a huge Aerosmith fan. And I love the Whitford St. Holmes record because it's so reminiscent of old Aerosmith. And old Aerosmith is my favorite music on the planet.
Very good, very good.
So I can't wait to talk to him about it.
Absolutely. Now, who else had a big influence on your playing style over the years?
You know, it was all those guys from the 70s. I was 16 years old in 76, you know, so,
right.
Or 13 years old in 76. And that's when all those cool albums came out, like Boston and Kansas, and you know, all those records with great guitar playing. You know, there was all these cool guitar players: Lonnie Montrose, Peter Frampton, Rick Derringer, just cool dude guitar players. You know, they just don't exist anymore. That time's past. You know, but it was a great time as a guitarist to grow up. I was just influenced by all those guys.
Okay, cool. Now, I know you're busy with Whitesnake right now, but once this tour cycle is over, will we be seeing anything new coming from Winger?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
For sure. I sent Kip 6 ideas. He says he's got a bunch of ideas. Generally, that's not how we write, because when we get together, we always do something that's way better than the stuff that we send each other.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's how we write. We just get in a room together, press go on the drum machine, and just start playing in the key of A until something happens.
Okay, so we can definitely expect another album to follow up.
Definitely. As soon as this is done, I'm going to Kip's and starting writing.
Okay, great. And then I know he's doing some solo dates now, but then I expect that once a new album comes out, that Winger would be hitting the road as well.
Oh, for sure, next year.
Okay, great. Now, is it difficult having to split the time between the two bands, logistically, but creatively, you know, being in two different spots?
It got a little hairy there when I was doing both at one point, having to be prepared for the Whitesnake tour, and at the same time, you know, doing all the Winger stuff. You know, it's hard to get your act together when you're out on the road. You're not in your house. You don't have your computer.
Right.
and your Pro Tools and all that. So, it got a little hairy there for a minute, but for the most part, it works out great because Kip does Winger's schedule around what Whitesnake does.
Okay.
Which is very nice of him. He could totally do it with someone else if he wanted to, but the thing is, we all have schedules. Rod Morgenstein's a professor at Berkeley. So, there's certain times when he can't go. And Johnny Roth is playing with Starship.
Okay.
So it's kind of, he waits till, my thing is done, and we look for an opening in everyone else's schedule. But it seemed to be working out for me so far, so that's great.
Absolutely, and then you've also had some solo stuff thrown in there as well. So what's going on with the Reb Beach project?
Oh, just, that's always on the back burner.
Right.
We did a gig, a month ago. We just kind of get together whenever there's a free moment. The drummer in that band is so fabulous that's really one of the main reasons I do it, just to get a chance to play with him. He's like world class, and he lives in Pittsburgh, and his name's Dave Throckmorton, and it's just a huge joy to play with this guy, and I can't wait to get an album out so that I can tour with him, do G3 or whatever.
Okay. Sounds good. And I had one last question for you. If you could choose one guitarist, dead or alive, to join you on stage for a jam session, who would it be and why?
I don't think anyone's ever asked me that question, and I have to think about it. A guitar player to jam with on stage.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. Who's my favorite guitar player? I mean, I have favorite guitar players that no one's ever heard of.
Right.
Drew Zing is one of my favorite guitar players. He plays with Steely Dan.
Okay.
But, I've met him before, so it would be like, this huge, amazing honor,
Right.
I don't know,
right,
Jimi
right.
Hendrix, I guess.
Okay.
Say Hendrix would be the most exciting one.
Absolutely. Well, didn't mean to put you on the spot with that one.
That's all right.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. We're looking forward to the Greatest Hits Tour, and I'm sure all the Whitesnake fans out there are as well. And we'll see you out on the road this summer, and then hopefully we'll look forward to new music from both Whitesnake and Winger in the not-too-distant future.
That's great. Thanks, Chris. I look forward to it, too. I think it's going to be a really exciting tour.
Okay, that sounds fabulous.